The Canucks lock up Elias Pettersson long-term as Rangers rookie Matt Rempe is the new viral sensation in the NHL. Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Off the Post. Rob Wong joined alongside by Toronto Sun sports columnist Steve Simmons and Postmedia hockey columnist Bruce Garrioch. And guys, the Vancouver Canucks, the latest Canadian team to sign a Swedish star long-term, Elias Pettersson, signing on the dotted line for 8 years and $92.8 million. Bruce, as it stands right now, Pettersson's $11.6 million cap hit will be the fifth highest heading into next season. Does the salary match the performance for this player?
Well, one thing you can say about Elias Pettersson is he has been more than a point-a-game player in his 387 games in the National Hockey League. But that's a lot of money and a big commitment to make to a player who, I don't know, Steve, I think you're giving a lot of money to a player who hasn't won a thing. Now, we've seen other players who haven't won a thing make a lot of money, and I know the importance of Elias Pettersson in the Vancouver marketplace, and I understand the importance of keeping him, and I get all of that, but I'd like to see them win something with him before you go handing out those kind of contracts. You know, my only comparison, or my easy comparison, is here in Ottawa. Well, they've handed out a lot of money to their young players, but they haven't won a thing, and they're going to miss the playoffs for the seventh straight year. And you can say, well, put better players around them. Absolutely. But it's also incumbent on those young players making that kind of money to carry this team. It's now going to be on Elias Pettersson to carry this team. But I think him and his agent, Pat Briso, deserve a lot of credit because they played this perfectly.
I think really when you look at the Canucks situation, I don't look at Elias Pettersson individually. I look at a lot of teams. How are their best players being paid? And so he's getting over $11 million a year next year, and they can afford to do that now, which is a little early, I think, for where he stands in the league and where his salary should be. But you can afford to do that when Quinn Hughes is only pulling in just over $7 million a year, and he might be the MVP of that team. In my opinion, he is. When JT Miller's making $7 million a year until 2020, and Thatcher Demko's only at $5 million a year for the next 2 years after this one. So they can overpay Pettersson a little early in the contract, and then maybe for the last 5 years or however the years work out, because he's still a pretty young guy. You know, then when the cap moves up significantly, you know, eventually they're going to have to pay, you know, probably pay Hughes more than him. But you take their top four at like $32 million next year, and you compare it to like Toronto's top four, you know, at $45 million. You know, it's a pretty good way for the Vancouver Canucks to be situated for going forward. Especially, you know, Quinn Hughes at $7 million for 3 more years is a fabulous buy on the Canucks part.
Yeah, they're definitely in a spot right now where they can afford some of these bigger contracts. Meantime, the most talked about player in the NHL right now isn't a potential 70-goal scorer or 100-point player. It's New York Rangers rookie forward Matt Rempe, who is fighting anything and everything right now while throwing bone-crushing checks. We saw him have maybe the most anticipated fight in recent memory when he squared off with Ryan Reeves on Saturday. Steve, the three of us are old enough to remember when players like Rempe roamed the hockey earth. Is he single-handedly reviving the enforcer role?
Please, let's not go there if we don't have to. And I appreciate that fans are so starved for fights that they're all excited when which was a fantastic Leafs-Rangers game on Saturday night. And it's 3-2, and I don't know how many minutes are left. And Rempe looks to the bench like, "Coach, can I fight?" You know, and he has to give him the head nod, kind of, "Yeah, go ahead." And it was the most unnatural, staged, I have nothing against you, you have nothing against me fight you're ever going to see. And, you know, that's what should never be happening. If you want to have a fight by, you know, osmosis or whatever you want to call it, in hockey, great. I have no problem with that. The Rempe 1 second shift into his NHL career fight, there's no reason for that. There wasn't a reason for it years ago. We have seen far too much evidence of what happens to guys that fight too much. As far as I'm concerned, the sooner he goes away as a fighter, the better it will be both for him and for the NHL.
Well, and I agree with you. I think that the stage fight, I mean, did it really do anything for the game? No, they had their fight and both went their separate ways. I look at a guy like Rempe too, and I think that, I think he's got to learn how to fight too. Because I'm not convinced that he really, I think he takes too many punches. And right now, I kind of look at him, Rob, he's the flavor of the month, and he's in a place that gets a lot of attention. He's in New York. It's kind of funny. I had spoken to Nick Kiprios earlier in the day, and I said, "Are you going to the game?" He said, "Absolutely. I'm going to see Ryan Reeves and Matt Rempe go at center ice." I mean, it was the it was almost like he had to do it on that stage on Hockey Night in Canada. But will it change the face of fighting and bring it back to the game? No. I think there will still be tough hockey in the playoffs, but I don't think I don't think it means that we're going to go back to the days of the Broad Street Bullies.
Well, if you look at I don't think any team played tougher last year in the playoffs than the Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. They were a tough team to play. They won all the battles. As tough as Florida might have been, they absolutely obliterated Florida in the finals. And they played tough out. They don't even have a fighter on their team. They don't have a guy who gets out there and fights anybody. You don't have to fight to play tough. Tough is what are you doing in front of the net? Tough is how much are you battling for a puck in the corner? Tough is all that. If Rempe is trying to build something, a career for himself, God bless him. If he has to do this to build a career, fine. But that's one person. To say you need fighting in the game for anything other than entertainment purposes, I just don't see it. And I know fans are all get excited. I do too. I like to watch it when it happens. What I don't like is 10 years later when I run into the guy and I see that he doesn't know what his name is. I don't like that. And I don't want to see too many more of those anymore. And this guy's 16 fights in the American Hockey League the last 2 years, and what's he got 5 now? I think in the NHL in 7 games. He as Bruce says, he better learn to fight. He better learn to pick his spots a little bit better and fight when there's a reason to fight, not just look at the guy in a 3-2 hockey game between two great hockey teams that really was completely unnecessary on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's definitely an unsustainable clip for the amount of fights he's having at this moment. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Steve Simmons and Bruce Garrioch, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on another edition of Off the Post.